This is applying the quadratic formula exact answers. It says use the quadratic formula to solve for x, 5x squared minus 5x minus 1 equals 0. So let's just pretend it didn't give us that instruction to use the quadratic formula. When you're presented with a quadratic equation, you have options generally, right? You can try to factor. You can try the square root method. Since we have this 5x here, square root method isn't going to work. But let's see if we could factor. That's oftentimes the quickest way if it works. So AC method, A times C, right, ABC, ABC. So 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. And then we happen to have our B is also negative 5. So we want two numbers that multiply to negative 5. So negative 5 times 1 or 5 times negative 1 would be our only two options. And then we want those two numbers to also add to negative 5. Well, that's not going to work. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. 5 plus a negative 1 would be positive 4. So that means that this is not factorable over the rational numbers. So basically, we should use the quadratic formula. You could also try using completing the square, but if dividing by this a that's on the x squared, if that's going to give you fractions, that makes completing the square just a little more complicated. So I think quadratic formula is going to be the easiest thing to do. And that's what they told us to do anyway. Okay, so quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let's put in our a, b, and c. All right, so b is negative 5, so we're going to have negative 5. Plus or minus square root, and then negative 5 in parentheses squared, minus 4 times a is positive 5, and c is negative 1. All over 2 times, again, a is positive 5. Okay, and I was looking at Alex, and it looks like as long as you get kind of things cleaned up, you don't even have to really simplify a whole lot, and it's going to take the answer. But I'm going to show you how to completely simplify, because at some point you're going to have to do that. So, okay, negative 5 is just, of course, 5, and then plus or minus square root. So we're going to have, this is always going to be a positive because you're squaring that b. So 25, and then two negatives will make this plus 20. So I think we'll have 45 underneath our square root. And then all over 10. So the fact that 45 is not a perfect square number tells us also that we were correct when we decided that this thing could not be factored. If this was a perfect square number like 49, that means we must have missed something up there. Okay, so also 45 is positive, so we're going to have real answers. And Alex is actually okay with you leaving your answers like this. You just have to type them in separately with the plus and minus. But again, I'm going to show you how you can simplify this a little bit. At the very least, I'm noticing that 45 is 9 times 5, and 9 is a perfect square. So at the very least, I can bring that square root of 9 out, and we can write this as 5 plus or minus. The square root of 9 is 3. And then, 3. And then we have this 5 is still left inside the square root, all over 10. It's actually really tempting from here to keep going and maybe cancel the 5 with the 10, but you can't cancel terms. You could write this differently. I'm not sure that it would really be simplified. Let me see if I can make some more space here. So I don't think we would be simplifying it further if we did this, but we could write that we can do 5 over 10, and then plus or minus 3 root 5 over 10. so we could simplify 5 over 10 as 1/2. You actually can't cancel the 5 under the root with something outside a square root. So you actually can't simplify the second fraction any more than it already is. So we could write that this is 1/2 plus or minus 3 square root of 5 over 10. So we have now 1, 2, 3, 4 different answers that I think Alex would accept any of these 4 versions of the answer. When you look at the explanation, it's this one that it stops with. And then it also says, or you could write it this way. All right, so let's do one more of these. And we're going to have the same kind of situation with where we could stop or we could sort of keep going and simplify further. Okay. And so again, it's telling us use the quadratic formula to solve for x. Notice it doesn't say whether or not to put the answer in exact form. Just assume that's what it wants. Unless it specifically says rounded or decimal rounded to whatever. Assume it wants exact form. Okay, so now, by the way, you could try seeing if this will factor, but it won't. So now A would be positive 9, B is negative 2, C is negative 1. So x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So b is negative 2, so negative 2, I'm going to go ahead and write positive 2. So I'm doing this one a little faster. Negative 2, the quantity squared is 4, and then minus 4ac, so 4 times 9 times a negative 1. Okay, 4 times 9 times negative 1. I think we're going to end up with a plus because we have 2 negatives and then a 36. So if you want to do that more slowly, absolutely, you should do that more slowly. And then 2 times 9 is 18. Okay, so we're going to have 2 plus or minus square root of 40 over 18. And so Alex is fine with you just leaving it like this. But I'm going to go a little bit further and show you how you would simplify. So we start with simplifying the square root, and we can, right? You wouldn't necessarily be able to do this, but we can because we have a factor of 4. So square root of 40 is the same as square root of 4 times the square root of 10. So we can take square root of 4 outside, so we have 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 10 all over 18. And now we can actually go even further because we're going to be able to cancel 2's all over the place. So you can do the same trick of writing this as 2 separate fractions as we did up above and simplifying each fraction individually. But another thing you can do is when you have a common factor in the numerator, you can factor that out. So we factor out 2, we have 1 plus or minus square root of 10 over 18. And now we can cancel the 2 with the 18. And so we have 1 plus or minus square root of 10 over 9. So this would be the simplified form.